right, so what we have here is an example of a lesson that I've done in the past where basically this would just be me lecturing about the time I called it between the fires. All right, so it's between World War One, the time between World War One and World War Two. All right, and I would go through all the different scenarios about what happened, why there was so much, basically trying to connect the dots between World War One and World War Two. Some of the chaos that happened in Germany, the fact they printed off a bunch of money. We talk about what, then we get into, we talk about, after we talk about the hyperinflation in Germany, we talk about obviously the Great Depression. We'll get into that and how that's going to cause people to lose faith in democracy, cause dictators to rise into power, just create kind of worldwide chaos. All right. And so when we talk about the policies that were implemented, kind of compared them to modern day when we went through the recession, etc. But while we're doing that, while I'm going over that in front of the class, what I would have the kids do is I would have them fill out guided notes. And then typically what I would do is to reinforce these ideas, we would read a chapter out of the book, we'd fill out a guided reading, basically so they'd get the information multiple times. Similar information just from different sources, etc. Not very exciting, not very engaging. And I kind of realized, you know what, I got to do something a little bit different here, because these kids are not engaging with the material. They're just sitting there, and it's very passive learning, and they're not that interested. All right, and so what I do now is I put this information onto an Edpuzzle. All right, so this is what Edpuzzle looks like now. So the kids now can watch the video, and you can see I have questions throughout the video, so I can check for their understanding to make sure that they're engaged with the material. So if they zone out, in class, if they zone out or they just write mindlessly, there's really no check. There's nothing to keep them in check on that. So I really like to use Edpuzzle because it helps to keep kids engaged. Like they get to a question like, whoa, what was that about? I got to go back and watch the video again. So they got to go back and, just to get the correct answer. And so they get points for this as well. And then I have them just answer some questions about it later on. And this is all typically done. Sometimes I'll give them classwork. Most of the time I have them do it at home on their own time. We have a period during the day which they can get it done as well. But I like to try to get them to have this done before class. Now I can check their progress. I can see what they've done, what they haven't done. I can see how many times they've watched the video. So if there's students that are not done before they work on the assignment I'm going to show you, I'll be like, hey, you got to watch the video. You can't move ahead until you do that. So instead of using class time to work on the project like a lot of the students will, they'll have to watch the video. Or if they just didn't get it, if a lot of the questions, if they get 50, say they get 50% of the questions right, I'll be like, hey man, you got to, let's go through. Let's rewatch this. Let's take our time and let's see if we can try to see where we made some mistakes. All right, so this is good for like a formative assessment as well, or a quick check to just kind of see what they get, what they don't get. And it gives me a lot of good feedback that I wouldn't get through a typical lecture. And plus, it allows kids to be able to kind of work at their own pace. And then this is the assignment we would do when they would get to class. So this is one of my many. We do these a lot in my class actually. These are called tiered projects. Where basically I let the kids. This one's actually kind of a smaller one. I usually have a 5, a 10, a 15, a 20. But I'll let the kids pick, mix and match kind of how they want to get to the end goal, which in this case is 45 points. But I say you got to complete at least one activity in each of these, rows. All right, so if you want to do a bunch of 5-pointers, usually I give them actually more options. Like I said, this one's kind of a smaller one. But it really, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to engage students at their interest level. I'm trying to engage them in the learning process by actually creating something, by doing something. You can see, and I kind of base this off of Bloom's taxonomy, where you get kind of some lower level, like, hey, just show me what you know. You're going to get 5 points for that. So you're going to have to do a lot more of that stuff if you want to do that. But you can show me what you know. That's fine. But once you start getting into the create and evaluate all the higher order thinking skills, that's where you're going to get the higher point total. All right, and so that's kind of how I base these off. So when I make this stuff up, I try to think in terms of Bloom's taxonomy. Like higher point totals are going to be the higher order thinking skills. Lower point totals will be those lower order thinking skills. But this allows me to, you see, so causes of depression. What are 5 reasons for the Great Depression? Give you 5 factors. Just list them. It doesn't take a lot, but you can show me, hey, I know this. This is my knowledge of it. You're going to get 5 points for that, because that's not a lot of that's not very higher order thinking at all, but it's, it shows me that you have knowledge. Create 3 posters displaying the causes. This year I've had a lot of students that like to do art. Like they like to do artistic things more than ever before. So I always have to have like an art thing thrown in there. I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, can we do something, in these other areas with art?" It's just, yeah, sure. Make big posters out of it, whatever. So these are not set in stone even. I let kids just tell me. I say, "Hey, if you got any ideas on what you want to do, let me know. I'll tell you what point total that'll fall in." And so kids will do that time and time again. Create blog entries, acrostics. They can set up a relief website for victims of the Great Depression. Include 5, testimonials. They can be real or fabricated about people's lives, but they have to be based on facts. I don't want them just completely making stuff up, but they can use facts about the Depression to come up with that. And then create parody song, research New Deal. This is from Toledo, so there's a lot of New Deal policy. A lot of things that have been built in the Toledo area based on money that they've gotten from our area has gotten from New Deal programs, and so I have them research those and just kind of write about that. But anyway, so this is an example of a tiered project that I like to do. And I like to do this because it really hammers down a few things. One is that it really keeps or allows the students to express their knowledge in a variety of ways. I've got a lot of kids, like I said, this year that are very into art, and they like to draw stuff. They like to use, non-linguistic representations of what they know. They like to draw, like, for the stock market crash. I've seen a lot of, some interesting things with that. With, I'm trying to think. Somebody depicted it like it was a roller coaster, and then all of a sudden it just went down a hill hard. But just different ways that it makes sense to them, which I never would have thought of. I'd have been like, my mind doesn't think that way, but it allows them to be creative. It allows them to have a lot of different ways to show their knowledge of these topics. And so, and I give them an option too. It doesn't talk about it on here, but typically I'll give them an option if they do the higher point totals to work with a partner. So if they have that desire to work with somebody, and some people don't, they don't necessarily, they're nervous to try these higher point total stuff. But once I say, hey, you can have a partner, that really motivates them, because they like to work with partners, but they're kind of scared to get out of that comfort zone. But so having a partner helps with that as well. But it allows them to express themselves in a variety of ways. And one of the things that I found by doing this too is it really creates a sense of ownership, because I'm not telling students what to do. I'm like, hey, I don't care what you do. I don't care how you show me that you have the knowledge. I just want to see that you have it. I want to see that you can use it to create something. It doesn't matter to me the method in which you show me it. It doesn't matter. I want you to show me. And that really, what that does is that creates a sense of ownership with the kids. They really buy into these kind of things, because they say, all right, well, I can pick and choose how I show this, so that it makes me feel like I'm in control of my own learning. And so they are more motivated to do this than they are like, hey, all right, we're going to open a book, we're going to fill out this worksheet, we're going to do this, all right, and then next week we're going to take a test. All right, so these are the kind of activities I try to do to differentiate, to engage students, to motivate students, to get them to learn, to allow them to express themselves in multiple ways. It's something that takes time. It definitely takes some class time to get this done, but it's well worth it. I get a lot better feedback about these than I would if, all right, gonna do notes, gonna take a test, gonna take a quiz. All right, we'll move on. All right, so this is just one example of how I've kind of changed my teaching practices.